Joining me again for another night of Facebook Live. I also want to recognize those that catch me on the replay from YouTube and or SoundCloud. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I am your host, Tricia Bray Smith, author, educator, and public speaker. Tonight, I just want to be here with you a few minutes just to encourage you to not be discouraged, but get creative. Because we know that hearing all the news of the re-shutdowns, states that are shutting down once again, and businesses that are making yet another adjustment to business hours and how they do business, guys. Sometimes we can get caught up in the circumstance of things. But how many of you guys know that in spite of it all, in light of it all, circumstances cannot dictate everything for us? This is a time now more than ever that it's time to get creative, because we know that the situations that we're dealing with from day to day, and those things that are out of our control, that we don't have control over, um, they're going to impact every area of our life. Every area of our life is going to be impacted. So it is now a time to uh, not get frustrated with things. And we know that it is, because we are in a country where we're free and we have the right and the freedom to choose how we want to live and the things we want to do, guys. But if we don't have our health, if we don't have uh, our safety, and if we're living at risk of going out and enjoying these things and dying as a result of it, then we don't have life anyway. So we really have to be wise moving forward. And one thing that just come across my mind, guys, we didn't heed the first warning. When the first recommendation came across for us to um, isolate in home, or to stay in our homes and only do the things that were necessary, we didn't as a whole take heed of that warning. Now we know that a majority of us did, and I sat here on this platform day in and day out, and I shared with you guys that I don't have to have an excuse to stay at home. I love being at home. I love sitting on my couch. I love now the transition I made for moving to the kitchen table. Um, I'm okay with it all, because that is a lot of the way that my life has transitioned to leave outside the house doing the things that are necessary, but also being in my home and enjoying and appreciating the blessing that I do have to have a shelter or a roof over my head, and to have all my basic needs here and have them met as well. So, you know, now with the added frustration of having to go back and redo, guys, don't let that frustrate you, because for whatever it is, I told you guys weeks before, the government don't know. They don't have answers for you. We don't know why the numbers are steady rising and all that. Whatever they put out here in this atmosphere to affect us in one way or another is stunned their intelligent and their scientific beliefs, or what they believed was going to happen. But the way I believed about this COVID is that it acts as a cancer. And I honestly believe that. And a lot of us, we're familiar with cancer. We know how cancer operates and the effects that cancers have on our bodies and on our families. And I believe that this COVID, and whatever other name that they have for it, acts as a cancer. And it acts as a a thief, so to speak, that comes to steal, kill, and to destroy our lives. And I believe that it will lie dormant for a season, and then I believe that under certain environmental conditions, it begins to manifest and eat us from the inside out. And that is what I believe is going on. And I believe this is why the numbers are rising. I believe that the exposure has already been there, and the exposures in many are just now manifesting itself and coming to the surface. So it's causing our leaders, and it's causing our legislators and our governments and um, people in positions to make decisions to really think of what the alternatives are. And I know that even here in our small town, they're making the decision now on our children going back to school. And so then the question comes up, well, what if? What if the kids or the cases within the institutions of our school begin to rise? And what we have to do going forward is we have to hold administration and the people that are making these decisions that's going to impact our families and that's going to impact our children. We're going to have to hold them accountable for the choices and decisions that they're making on our behalf, because at the end of the day, we're all going to be impacted some way or another. Whether it's us directly, the teachers and the kids within the institution, or if it's the families that the children that go to these institutions and get exposed and then bring back to our families that are impacted in the long run. So we really have to be wise. We have to have a conversation. We have to hold our administrations and the people that are making decisions on our behalf accountable. But also, even with our families, I see a lot of families that has expressed frustrations in not really having that vacation or that time to travel or that time to really enjoy life and enjoy the summer months. And I'm one. I would normally around this time I'd be getting ready to travel to Aspen or some other area for a little vacation and to just relax and get some downtime. But I know that for me right now, that is just not an option. I still continue to live my life as if, that we're still having to be inside the house and do things outside the house only as necessary. Because I don't believe that the pandemic is under control. I still don't believe that people have answers, and even with a vaccination or some of the treatments and things like that that they have available or that they're getting available and accessible to us, I don't want any of it. I don't want anyone injecting anything into my body. All I want to do is to be able to get food and hopefully some fresh grown foods, free of chemicals and things like that. Some green leafy vegetables, some fresh fruits, and I want to manage my nutrition as best as I can, and I want to live my life free of the discouragements and the distractions that are continued to be pushed our way. So all I'm saying, guys, is that we're getting ready to try life as normal as we knew it, and we're going to be the ones on the front line. We are going to be the guinea pigs. We are going to be the test dummies, so to speak. So with the schools considering opening them back up and the parents so ready to get the kids back off to school. I would say it's don't wait till we uh, have the decisions made by uh, personnels and leaders and administrations and things like that before we decide to really get creative and really get to thinking about what is really important. Yes, the education of our kids are important, but is it more important than their very lives and putting them at risk by putting them back into institutions to where the classrooms were already overcrowded and where now whatever we've been exposed to, we're bringing it into a closed environment now. Because yes, there's going to be some adjustments made, but there are only going to be so many adjustments that can be made. Have you considered continuing your child's education online? There are free public education that streams right to your home now. So there are some alternatives to think about. It is now time to get creative to where if you're really concerned about the education of your child, is that education of your child more importantly or more sought out than the health and the well-being of your child? So that is something that, we're really going to have to take a look at. Am I enthused as an educator at the thought of going back to a facility to where now there's hundreds of people in the facility and we take the risk of being exposed? Especially when I've taken the necessary precautions that has been suggested, but knowing that so many more have not. Because we know that we're all at different levels of in our health. We know that we're all at different levels in our ability to fight off or ward off certain viruses and diseases and things like that. But I just don't know, sitting here today, I have to be honest that I'm ready to take that risk. And certainly not to step out on the front line. And yes, I miss the social aspect of being there with my coworkers and being there with the students and things like that. But guys, I haven't even tried congregating and being around large groups of people outside of my home. Even with my church family, I know that they continue to meet every week. But I just don't know if I'm ready to take that risk. And it's a personal preference. But guys, I feel like we would have a better gauge of what we're dealing with had we have been a little more sensitive to the request or the suggestions in the beginning. But being that we did not, we don't know what to expect. And so many of you can say, well, I stayed at home. Well, for every one of us that stayed at home and only did the things that were necessary, I can tell you that for every one, there were 50 more that did not. And we know that in our little small community and in our county, all we can do is just take a look at the numbers. And maybe the death rates are not as bad or whatever, or not as severe, and now they're being able to manage a little better or find treatment. But just because it's treated and it's not flaring up now does not mean that it won't later down the road if put in the right environment. So we have to think about that, guys. And I'm thinking about, so many of us and our families, we were not able to vacation, but then I know that there were so many that still went on vacation and still did the things that they wanted to do. And so it took getting creative in how we do things and when we do these things. And That's okay, guys. Whatever it takes to keep you in good mental health standing, whatever it takes to keep you and your loved ones and your family feeling like you can still live a life that is enjoyable, even if you have to make minor adjustments, do that. Do what you feel like you need to do to keep your sanity. Because we know that things over the past several months have not been ideal. It has not been ideal. But at the same time, it's not to come to stop us. It's coming to make us think and think outside the box and get creative, and also to develop plans. And these plans are necessary. It is necessary to start thinking about a backup plan for your child's education. It's necessary to think of a backup plan for how are we going to deal with the increased exposures that are coming about, because we know that the bigger end doesn't work. We know that we can't control other people. We know that people are free and have a right to do as they choose. And that even goes back to the mask and things like that. Even the people that were wearing masks were not educated on how the masks work. The people that were wearing gloves were not educated on the proper use of gloves. And I do believe that at the same time, the people that are handling our food in these fast food restaurants and these different places, I don't know that they're completely educated enough to not only protect themselves, but to keep us safe enough to not transfer whatever they're exposed to our foods and other things like that. So my mind just goes all over the place, and I'm thinking of more creative ways. How am I going to handle this situation if it comes up? How are you going to handle your child's education if we go back into the institutions and then realize that the numbers climb so dramatically and that our kids are put so much at risk and they're exposed to the point to where we can no longer be in these schools again? Have you researched? Have you looked into those backup plans? Have you had the discussion with your children? Have you had the discussion at the kitchen table? And what about our loved ones that are sick and dealing with all these other health ailments? What kind of plans are we having? Have we looked at changing our diet and look into an exercise plan? And have we looked into alternative medicines and things like this? Or have we just taken the word of the people that continue to draw us in for experimental purposes, for scientific purposes? You know, keeping the pharmaceutical companies in business and things like this. You know, guys, we have to really think about what it is that we're really dealing with. Because do you know that it's really us, the uneducated people, that are going to get the hard end of the bargain? We're the ones that's going to be sacrificed and put in on the front line. It's because we're not educated and we don't know, and we tend to hang on to the whatever people tell us until we get out there and we see something different for ourselves. So I know that our life circumstances have changed. I don't know that things are going to get any better. And I say that, and it may not even have anything to do with COVID, because I just believe that when COVID is said and done and COVID is just a memory and a thing of our past, I believe that something else is going to be sent here to punch us in the face right behind it. And that is just my belief. So, guys, we have to get creative. We have to. We have to think beyond just what's right now. We have to think beyond just the circumstances right now. And we know that our finances and our resources and all these things are beginning to dry up. We know this. Have we gotten creative and think about how to come up with a business of our own? Have we thought about what if the next several months are worse than the months which we've had already? What's our game plan? Have the resources and the finances that we have coming in, have we used them wisely? Have we monitored those resources a little more tightly, so that they're going to places to where it's going to benefit us rather than harm us in the long run? So are we making good financial decisions, or have we gotten creative and learned ways that we can make our money work for us? Or are we just frustrated in the process? Have we taken for granted that we have a monthly check coming in? Have we taken for granted that my unemployment is going to help keep me afloat for the next 6 months going forward? You know, we really don't know when we begin to look at all that. So we really have to get together, and we have to really have the conversation. And the people that are making decisions on our behalf, we have to find ways to have the conversation and hold them accountable for putting us at risk. Now, I myself, you know, there's some things that I'm not really ready to budge on, but at the same time, I got a mind and I can think. And so, being that I can think and I can make decisions, it gives me options and it gives me opportunity to make the necessary adjustments that I need to make for myself or for my children. So it doesn't mean that we stop or get frustrated or get distracted along the way. It just means that this brain that we have to get creative, and we have to be able to think and make decisions that are going to be beneficial for us. So, guys, it's a lot to think about. And if you haven't already had the conversation, I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to voice your concerns. I encourage you to, when you go and enroll your child for school, like so many of you are doing, whatever the process is, ask them questions. Have your questions written down in case you forget what they are once you get there. You have to be able to put yourself in a position to where you are making informed decisions. We've made enough decisions or enough choices without being informed and not having all the necessary information to make those decisions. So whatever questions you have, I encourage you to write it down on a notebook pad, type it out into your phone, into a text message or a note or whatever it is that we have on our cellular devices nowadays. Be able to use your voice to where it's going to empower you, and not only empower you, but that when you and your child can have the conversation, or you and your family members have the conversation, you know that you guys are safe, and that whoever is in leadership positions that are making decisions to bring us back together and putting our kids on the front line and our educators on the front line, then we have enough information because we've asked enough questions and we know what their plans are moving forward to help keep us protected. Until our government, until our United States can actually get together with our scientists and medical staff and all these other people that are studying the things and coming up with all these vaccinations and all this good stuff, until they're able to give us the necessary answers that we need. Because for right now, you can't make me believe that a vaccination is going to do it. I ain't buying that. And I ain't wanting not one to inject nothing in this body here. And if it takes getting a vaccination to go back and do the job that I do in the school system, You can cancel that contract. And that'll be the day that the contract is tore up, because I ain't having it. So, no. Mm-mm. So is that the answer? I mean, you decide. And you just decide for you. But it's time to get creative. Because I think that I've thought it out well enough that if my kids had to have a choice, they could learn all they need to know right here from home, from this device. And if teaching is that important to me, I can teach right here, sitting in front of this screen, just like I'm sitting with you every night, and I teach from home. But to go and to put myself at risk, and knowing that I'm going back in with children who are the future of our world, putting them at risk, and allowing something as serious as what we're dealing with to eat them like a cancer and destroy their lives before we give them an opportunity, I think not. So guys, it's something to think about. I appreciate you guys taking out the time to listen to me, guys. But don't be discouraged. Don't get frustrated in everything that's going on. It's time now to get creative. It's time now to learn all we can and make the necessary adjustments. I mean, it's not putting your life on hold. It's not stop living, but it is to think wisely and to do what we need to do to have the best quality of life that we can have. And I can tell you that it starts with our nutrition, it starts with our knowledge, and it starts with just getting creative and using what God gave us and that He created us with to make the necessary adjustments in our lives so that we can still live the best we can with the rest of the time that we have left. I am your host, Aunt Tricia Bray Smith. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I'll see you again here tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Good night, everybody.